Hi there and welcome back to Amplify, the personal brand entrepreneur podcast. I'm Bob Gentle, and every Monday I'm joined by amazing people who share what makes their business work. If you're new, then take a second to subscribe through your player app, and while you're listening, join our Facebook community. Just visit amplifyme.fm/insiders and you'll be taken right there. Hi there and welcome back to Amplify, the personal brand entrepreneur show. My name is Bob Gentle, and every week I'm joined by incredible people who share what makes their business work. If you're new to the show, take a second right now to subscribe in your player. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, and this is new, so pay attention guys, make sure you check the new follow option in the top right of the page for this show in your app. That way Apple will actually send you the new episodes, which for some reason they've stopped doing. So before I jump into introducing this week's guest, I have a new thing. After nearly 200 of these interviews, I've learned a thing or two, and it turns out success leaves a trail. And I want to offer you that map. So head over to amplifyme.agency/roadmap and grab your copy of my brand new personal brand business blueprint. Everything you need to start, scale, or just fix your expert business. It's yours for free as a gift from me. So let's get into it. This week, I'm speaking to Paul Ace. I've got so many questions that I want to ask Paul Ace. But Paul, for those who don't know you, why don't you just tell a little bit about who you are, where you are, and the kind of work you do?
Yeah, so I am from the UK, in the heart of the Midlands in Derbyshire, and we help people with conversational commerce. More specifically, we work mainly with seven-figure high-ticket course creators. And we help them go from drop-in ROAS. You know, a lot of people are seeing right now their return on ad spend dropping off a cliff, and we help them generate an extra 6 to 7 figures in new revenue by using CCOM. So for anyone who doesn't know what conversational commerce is, or CCOM, then it's all about creating an 80% human-like experience and a 20% human experience. So what that means is, think about how you would normally have a conversation with someone, right? So a lot of the time when we send emails out or send texts out or whatever the platform is, we turn into this marketer rather than being just having a conversation with someone. So we go, well, how would you normally have that conversation? Okay, let's automate that first message, or that first and second message in that sequence, and then hand over to humans for that 20% human experience. So what that means is we build more engagement with everyone in the audience, and at the same time we're getting feedback from the customer, so we can change our messaging to make sure it's handling the objections and using their language patterns. And then thirdly, it increases sales because people buy from people that they know, like, and trust. So when they're actually having conversations with people, you tend to buy a lot more from those people. And then we also take all the different data points and understand where do we need to move the needle the most by using conversational commerce. So
people listening might not have heard about conversational commerce in the past, but they've probably vaguely heard about chatbots. So essentially what you're talking about is an elegant, intelligent use of chatbots. Am I right?
So I'd say the word bot essentially as well has a negative connotation. So we don't just focus on bots per se and chatbots. We're focusing on multiple different channels. So SMS, email, messenger, personalized video messages, personalized email, voicemail drops. So we're like, how do we incorporate all these different communication platforms together to create this best customer experience that guides people through to the sale? So we're more about, okay, and I'll be honest, when I first started doing this stuff, everything was a chatbot. And it was just like, cool, yeah, they press some buttons and they get to the end, and then, hey presto, they go and buy something, or they don't buy something, and that was it. Now, we're like, how do we create that hybrid between the two? Where we start off by going, okay, well, how would I normally have that conversation? So let me give you an example to give you some clarity. So for example, let's say someone goes to your page to go and buy a $37 product, something like that.
Yeah.
They get to the page, they get to the checkout, they abandon the cart, right? They abandon the cart at the checkout. Instead of just sending an email saying, hey Bob, you didn't complete your order, you can go and complete your order here, right? Which is 90% of abandoned cart emails. And it builds no connection, no rapport at all. What we'll do is we'll grab the phone number on that opt-in as well, and we'll send them a text saying, for example, let's say it came from Amplify, and I'd be like, hey Bob, it's Paul. I just wanted to see if something went wrong or something broke. I noticed you started ordering but didn't finish. Can you just let me know and I'll get it fixed ASAP? So then what happens is then you feel a obligation from your side to respond to that message to say, oh no, nothing went wrong. I don't want you working on something that isn't wrong. No, I just had a question about blank.
Yeah.
And then you can handle that objection there and then and guide people back to the sale. And the problem is most people assume, and I'm not sure if I'm allowed to cuss on here, but am I allowed to cuss?
You do you.
Yeah,
you
so,
do you. It's fine.
So assume, a lot of people say assume makes an ass out of you and me. Right? So
That's barely cussing. I was expecting something much stronger.
I'm English. I try and keep it fairly clean. So as regards to that means when people are guessing what your audience are saying, then half the time you're going to miss the mark, right? It's basically going, oh, by the way, I want you to shoot a gold in the center of a archery board, but what I'm going to do first, I'm going to give you the bow and arrow, I'm going to put a blindfold on you, I'm going to spin you around, and then you need to shoot that center of the target. Rather than doing that, why not just get the archery board, bring it right next to someone, take the blindfold off, and let them just place the arrow in the middle? Because they're telling you exactly what's wrong, and then you can give a customized solution to fix that thing.
See, it's very easy to listen to that and think that you're talking about manipulation or tricking people. But actually, if you think it through, you want to give the visitor the best experience you possibly can. Because it's great experiences and intimacy and relationships that ultimately lead to the like, know, and trust that leads to sales. And if you're going to build relationships at scale, building in a degree of automation is the best way to do it, because it allows you to get closer. If you can get closer, then that connection is what will lead to sales. So I really like what you're talking about. And I can see how for your ideal customer, and I mean, you're talking about 7-figure entrepreneurs, and it's very easy to think, well, that's not me. But people like John Lee Dumas or Pete Vargas were not always 7-figure entrepreneurs. It took some work to get there. Today's sort of average entrepreneur is tomorrow's 7-figure entrepreneur. So anybody listening who's thinking, you know what, I like the sound of that, but I don't even know what tools to buy. I don't even know how to get started on this. If Bob Gentle wanted to take the first steps that will lead him on a journey that might get him to the point where he can hire a Paul Ace, what should he be doing today to get him to that place?
Yeah, so I was in this position, right? I didn't start doing conversational commerce for 7-figure businesses straight off the bat. I actually did it on my own business and learnt this thing. So for example, I used to have a bridesmaid's dress business. Bit of a random bit of business for a guy to run, but me and my wife, we ran this bridesmaid's dress business, and we wanted to create a better customer experience than anyone else. So what I did is every time someone bought a fabric sample, right, bear in mind they're paying £1.99, so like $2.50, paying $2.50 for this fabric sample. Now, what experience are they getting from the other bridesmaids dress shops? They pay for that, the sample goes out, then the bridesmaid's dress shop hopes and prays that person comes back. I was like, that's not going to work for me. I want to make sure that those people become closer to us at that point. So we'd sell the fabric sample, and then straight away that would trigger a video message, right? So we use something called Bonjoro. Really easy to set up. If you've not used it before, you can go on Bonjoro, and then what happens, it sends a notification to your phone when someone takes a certain action, in this case when they made a purchase, and then it'd say record the Bonjoro. So I'd just press one button on my phone, and I would have the phone there, and I'd say, hey, I just wanted to say congrats on ordering your fabric samples. I know it's such an exciting time when you're planning for your wedding. Now, I'd love you to be part of our Facebook community as well. We've got over 3,000 brides to be in there, probably going through a lot of the similar things that you are right now, having a lot of the similar questions. So there's a button just below this video. You can click that and join that link. We'd love to have you part of the community. If you've got any questions about your fabric samples at all, just let us know. They should be there with you in about a week. Have a fantastic day, and I'll catch up with you soon. I did that for every single person that we sent a sample out for.
I love it. It's very manual, but it's super quick. And you can imagine how that positions you in the mind of the recipient. You're in a very different place from anyone else that they might have talked to. You're no longer sort of one of a bunch of open tabs.
And what made that even stronger, I did the same thing with the abandoned carts. So we use this. There was this app, and I don't know if it's still available on Shopify or not, but it's called Scout. And at the time, what Scout did, which was really cool, is when someone abandoned the cart, if they clicked a little button that said, I want a discount through Messenger. In fact, when it first started, Messenger was a Wild West. So basically, they could go to the checkout, and as long as they'd gone through Facebook, then it'd recognize their account anyway. So they would go to the abandoned cart, and then it would send me a notification on Messenger to say someone's just abandoned cart. So I'm on Facebook generally. I'm getting a message on Messenger saying someone's just abandoned the cart. Here's the phone number. Here's the name. Here's a script to say when you're on the phone. Give them a call. And I would ring all these abandoned carts and go through this very conversational sales process where it wasn't like, hey, I noticed you abandoning your cart. Why have you abandoned your cart? Are you going to go and buy? Right? We don't do things like that because that's not going to work. But I was like, how can I use this to build more rapport? So I get on the phone and say, hey, it's Paul from Dream Wedding Secrets. I just wanted to give you a quick ring. I noticed that you left the dresses in your cart. I just wondered, did something go wrong? I just wanted to see if you needed anything at all. And then they're like, oh, same kind of what went wrong kind of thing. And then what they do, they tell you all about the wedding. And then sometimes I'll be on the phone with them for 10, 15 minutes just going, oh, have you thought about this for your wedding? Have you thought about this? And they're like, oh, I'm really struggling with who to invite for the wedding. Have you got any other struggles that I can help you with right now? And because I've been in the wedding industry for like 4 years anyway as a wedding singer, I knew all the things that they were coming up with. And they're like, oh, I don't know whether to invite my sister's boyfriend or not. Well, do you know him well? And so we'd go through these conversations, and then at the end, I'd be like, thank you so much. I say, listen, I really appreciate you spending the time with us today. So I'd like to do something special for you and give you a discount code. Now, because this is kind of out of my control, but it will only be valid for 24 hours. So if I send you that now, can you just type in the URL? Yeah, type in that address. Great, yeah, and then I'd walk them through the sale and say, just check that code works. Great. So that abandoned cart would go from, basically, they were just going to go somewhere else, just window shopping, to spending £500-600 with us.
Now, what's really interesting listening to that is when we began talking, a lot of people would have been assuming as automation. This guy's just going to be talking about automation and scale. Actually, it's the complete opposite. And I'm sure there are elements of that when you're working with thousands of leads.
Sure.
But what you're talking about is good old shopkeeping.
Yeah.
It's really that. It's bringing the old traditional skills into the 21st century using some really simple tools to allow you to just sell better. I really love it. So how do you scale that up?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's where I wanted to go with it as well, Bob. So a lot of people say, oh, well, that's not scalable. Well, you go, well, look at your customer buyer journey. So one of the first things we do when we go into any business is look at the customer journey. We map out every single email, SMS, voicemail, every stage of the funnel. We look at everything. So then we can pinpoint the highest ROI journey. Now, once we've looked at that, then we go, right, where can we add conversation in here that's scalable? So, for example, let's say you're selling a high ticket course. Now, you may have a low ticket product. You're not going to send a personalized video message to everyone who abandons a cart when you're getting like 500 customers a day, because that's just not scalable. You can't do it. However, what you can do is have a VA team that are handling the text messages, for example, for those what went wrong messages, and you could pay, $400 or $500 or something like that a month, which if you're just getting started may sound like a lot at a 7-figure business. It's very cheap to have customer service for $400-$500 a month.
Yeah.
And then you could say you give them all the FAQs. So every eventuality, basically over the course of a week, you pretty much see all the questions that are going to come up. And you go, great, if someone says this, say this. If someone says this, say this. Now, then as it gets further down the buying journey, as we get towards, for example, let's say someone submitted a retainer for paid $500 retainer for the high ticket program for like a $5,000 or $10,000 program. Now, at that point, if someone stopped in the pipeline there and got to the $500 got to the $500 retainer, and then it's been 4 or 5 days and they haven't gone and paid the rest of it, something's gone wrong. There's either they haven't got the funding to pay the rest, they've changed their mind and gone, actually should have done this in the first place, or they've just got some unlistened to question currently that they need help with. So we were like, well, at that point, how many people are in that space? Well, significantly less than 500 a day. So it might be, 2, 3, 4 a day that are at that stage on the $500 retainer but not paid the $10,000. So what if we triggered a Bonjoro message at that point instead from the owner? So the owners are actually quite happy to go, hey, I'll record 5-10 video messages a day, because I know if 2 of those turn into sales, great, I spent 20 minutes on that and made $20,000. So yeah. we look at the ROI at every stage of the journey and we go, right, where can we, the whole 80-20 rule, we're a big fan of 80-20, so where can we get 80% of results from 20% of the actions? And that's where you apply the automation. So automate the stuff that can be automated, and then personalize the stuff with the 20% human experience that can be humanized.
So I'm listening to this and I'm thinking about how most people handle even the basic things, like somebody's just downloaded your opt-in off your website. And you sent, and let's be honest, people, let's be honest, listener, you might be getting one opt-in every other day. And how are you responding to this? With an email automation, maybe. You just imagine how people would respond differently if you actually took that opt-in at face value and actually valued it and thought, well, what's the potential lifetime value of this person? It's really high, potentially. And we don't respond to that with anything like the degree of respect that we would if somebody walked into our shop. So when I listen to you talking about it at scale, it makes me embarrassed about how I deal with it when it's not at scale.
Because that's where it starts, right? And then, like I say, you just move those processes along as you scale further up. So we have a different approach. So I've just been setting up a new system because the old cobbler shoes, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the time you end up doing that thing last. So the last couple of weeks was like, right, we're going to get our systems really dialed in and get all these drip sequences going on as well. And when I say drip sequences, it's not like, hey, like I'm just going to teach you, I'm going to talk at you. No, it's like, how do we build conversation over that time period? So if someone opts in then for one of our free things on our site, first thing that happens, they get a text message. And that text message is from our customer success team, right? And at that point, they say, I just wondered, what business you're in? Or it could be what business you're in, or it could be, did you get access to it okay? Because then people feel obliged to say, oh, yes, I did. And then all you're looking for on that first thing after the opt-in is to get a response. So I have, I think, a combination of SMS, voicemail, and emails. There's about seven touch points in that sequence. Not a single one is selling anything. All they're looking for is, if I don't get a response, how can I create a different angle to get a response? Like, what business are you in? What are you kind of, what's your challenges? Tell me about this because I've got a ton of free resources that could help you. Right? So all the time we're reaching out, it's just like, hey, how can I help? How can I help? And we just frame it in different ways over SMS, voicemail, and email. And it can be really, really effective. I mean, one of the things, if you want to be a bit off the wall, one of the things I used to do with an abandoned cart, I sold this viral bot giveaway system. So we did $121,000 with $150 in ads. and I took that bot and messenger system that we did, and I was like, I'll package it up, and I sold it for $47, which was kind of crazy. So I was driving people to this page, and if they abandoned the cart, they got a voicemail message 15 minutes later from me. So it's a ringless voicemail, and it was like, hey, it's Paul from Amplify. Listen, one or two things has probably happened. Number one, it was actually a robber that started, has stolen your laptop, and then they started filling in the details. So if so, like, hello to you. And number two, maybe you decided, you researched me more and you actually hate me. Or number three, you're just not sure if you trust us yet. So here's what, don't do this. Whatever you do, don't go and Google Amplify CCOM right now. because I'm really scared about what you might find. Anyway, have a great day. If you've got any questions, just email paul@amplifyccom.com and we'll help you out. Have a great day. Bye. Right.
Yeah, that'll get people's attention.
Exactly. What one person, like, it was in my network, like, and I'd sent in the private link to it, and he bought it just after he got that message, and I got that voicemail from you. I had to go and buy it. I just thought it was hilarious.
As you might know, this show is supported by our sponsor, Agora Pulse. Now, you know how hard it is to juggle all the things in your business, the accounts, the meetings, the never-ending inbox, and that's why I teamed up with Agora Pulse to give you more than 5 hours back a week when it comes to managing your social media marketing. No complicated Excel docs, long emails, or millions of open tabs. Simply manage all your social media channels in one place. Go to amplifyme.agency/Agora Pulse to score 2 months for free on me. Now, all you have to do is figure out how you want to spend those spare 5 hours. Something that's sort of popping in my head here is, in order to be able to execute on this, you're going to need a few basic tools. And the first challenge that I see is having the X-ray goggles that let you see in the side of the funnel as to where people are, and then the triggers to alert you to respond. So what sort of foundational tools would you recommend for monitoring that for the average?
For if you're just starting out and getting going. Yeah, so I'll tell you a little bit about the kind of stuff that we use, and then, like, here's a simplified version of it as well if you're just getting started. So typically we're measuring, you know, the customer journey and all the analytics and seeing exactly where that highest ROI is. So we use Funnelytics to map the customer journey out. We use Segmetrics as well for tracking all the data. And we then also use good old-fashioned Google Sheet as well to plot all that stuff every week, and then we highlight things in red or green depending whether they've gone up or down, so we can see where the trends are and see what needs to move the needle next. Now, if you're mapping the customer journey and you're just getting started, use something called draw.io. It's made by Google. I think you can get to the same place by diagram.net. I think they've got both those domains. But yeah, Google owns that. It's free. It's like Lucidchart, which is basically like a flow diagram builder. So you just draw a load of boxes, right? Okay, what happens at this stage, this stage, this stage? Funnelytics is a pretty version of that that's got more integrations. So that is what I'd do out of the gate to get started, is definitely map out that customer journey on draw.io. And then after that, then, you know, if you want to get started in a cheap, cost-effective way, use something like, you know, we've got our own platforms and stuff that we use, but use something like ManyChat, because you can get started for $10 a month. And I think at the moment, I'm not sure if this is still the case because I haven't used their SMS platform much, but they were including a ton of free SMS messages that you could send out. So you could use that for email, SMS, and Messenger to send stuff out to people, and you've got it all in one drag and drop builder, which has not got that much of a learning curve.
Yeah, I'd used ManyChat for sort of Facebook Messenger chatbots. I hadn't considered it for other elements.
Yeah, they added that in. I mean, they saw what was going to happen with compliance as well, right? When it came to Messenger, I mean, anyone who's in Europe, you can't do sponsored messages. Like after the 24-hour window, it's getting harder to bring people back in. You know, we've found a few different ways to just utilize Messenger as a side piece a little bit more now. So, for example, recently we linked up with some software we've got about creating personalized images. So we said, hey, anyone who's been through this challenge before, we are going to give you a free pass to the next challenge for free.
Yeah.
Now, when they went into Messenger, it started off with a personalized image with their name in it, and it said, are you ready to claim your free pass? They said yes, and at that point, we used some crazy automation stuff to be able to create a ticket that says your entry to the next challenge, their name, and then we actually even created the ticket number unique to them with a unique ID.
Sounds like a lot of work.
Do you know what? It took me 15 minutes. because once you know what the tools are and how to do it, then it all starts to come together. But we did that, and then here's the great part about it. Now, I knew that 24-hour window is the magic window. So what do we do next? Well, firstly, we said, by the way, would you like to upgrade to the Plus experience? And then they're like, either what is Plus? So then you can answer that in there rather than just going straight to a upsell page. You can answer all their FAQs. So then if they go ahead and buy it, great. If they don't, they don't. That's fine. Then what we did is wait 15 minutes and said, by the way, we sent another message, said, by the way, we're giving away some amazing prizes for anyone who shares. So we created a virality piece. It said, go and tag or go and share this with 3 people. Send us a screenshot that you've done it, and we'll check in with you in 2 minutes. And we checked in with them 2 minutes later with automations and said, great, did you finish tagging those people? And they said, yes. So then they said, yes, great, upload your screenshot. Great, congratulations, we've just 10 extra entries into the giveaway.
See, now when I listen to all of this, I think about how most people run, I'm going to say, their Facebook ad campaigns.
Yeah.
And I look at the kind of claims of increased return on ad spend that you describe on your website.
Yeah.
And I look at that and I think that's crazy. I can actually understand why it happens. It's because of the nuance and the detail and the experience and the finesse of the touch points. I can totally see why it would just work better, why the ad spend would just achieve more. And it also tells me why you're able to charge the way you do, because one of the things that stuck out like a beacon on your website was you get paid on return. You get paid when they get paid. I'm curious to know what triggered that, because not many people would do it that way. Not many people do it that way. So tell me the story, sort of you get paid, I get paid when you get paid. What's behind that approach, and how's it working?
Yeah, well, so firstly you need balls
Yeah.
to do that, and you need to get results for people. So yeah, I mean, typically how we work is, depending on what the project is, right? If it's very hands-off and we know we've already got a system or we've got a strategic partner that we can work with as well sometimes, then we'll just work on that win-win straight out the gate. Sometimes we have hard costs and we'll say, listen, this is a cost for the hard costs, and that just covers that. And then after that, we don't charge any retainers. We just work on gross profit. It might be work on gross profit, it might work on revenue. To be honest, most of the time, because it's funny, I'll say to a client, and we call it client interviews, right? Because it is very much the way we work is, if we don't think it can be a win, then there's no point taking on that client. You see a lot of agencies, and I 100% won't name names. There's some amazing agencies out there, but you see some agencies will just go, "Oh, I got a client. Do you know if you can get a result? Don't know, but I'll get my retainer." So, I'm happy. I'm like, wait a minute. If we take this person on and they're not a good fit, then it ain't gonna work out. It ain't going to work out for either of us, because they're not going to be winning, we're not going to be winning. So we very much like vet them from their perspective and go, right, tell me let's find out where the holes are in your sales process already, and I've already got a very good idea of whether we can make an impact there. And one of the questions that I always ask people, especially lately, is what's your LTV? And 9 times out of 10, even 7-figure businesses go, oh, I don't really know.
Yeah,
and they go, we're making money, but I don't
lifetime value for the listener.
Exactly. So that's your lifetime customer value. And go, so what's your lifetime customer value? Do you know it on a funnel by funnel basis? And they're like, well, we make a lot of money, and I've got profit coming out the other end. It's like they're like, oh, we're on like a 6x return, or you're like, well, great. But then what's going to happen 3-4 years down the line? I mean, we're even seeing it right now, right, with Facebook ads and everything. Like, the compliance is getting crazy. So what's going to happen 3-4 years down the line when some of these big players really do start spending a lot of money? And it's a supply and demand thing. There's no real estate left on Facebook, right? It's all filled up with ads, and like they're even starting to advertise in groups now.
Something that I'm curious to know if this is what you find. When people answer that question, what's your lifetime value with a blank stare, I would get quite excited.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of the time, all the low-hanging fruit is actually selling things to the people who've already bought rather than new people. And if they haven't been systematic about extending value to their existing customers in other ways, there's a huge opportunity there. And largely one that's ripe for the systematic approach you take.
Yeah, and the exciting thing about it as well, Bob, is it's not just the selling to the existing customers. Sometimes they're already doing it, but they don't know that they're doing it. Right? So what a lot of businesses are looking at is, okay, I put this much in ads today. How much did I get out? Now, when you're at 7 figures plus, what happens is you go into broader and broader and broader audience. So you might start off your first 10 people that you're going to get as customers. Quite easy to find absolutely perfect customer. It's like, where's Wally? Right? Or if you're in America, where's Waldo? But over time, then that becomes harder and harder because you've started to saturate that audience and you've used up those people. So your cost to acquire a customer goes up and up and up. So then it's not a case of how much does it cost to acquire a customer. It's how much is that customer worth after 90 days. So we've just started looking at this new report called a sales velocity report. So without getting too technical, I can look at basically each funnel and go, right, when someone comes in that funnel, within 90 days, they're worth this much. Or within 120 days, they're worth this much. Or a lead in going into that funnel after 90 days is worth this much. So then we can go, hey, by the way, you can challenges, for example, right? There's a lot of what people consider front loading. So you might go and spend, like one of our last challenges, we just spent $200,000 on ads. And I can say that because the person who I did it for, they works with, they said it on my podcast as well. So it's out in the open. So they spent $200,000 on ads, and we made over $1 million. However, we lost about $100,000 in the first 10 days. We had to go $100,000 in the hole to make $1 million.
Yeah.
But if they weren't 100% confident in the numbers, and they say to, like, we had this conversation the other day with the next challenge, and he said, Paul, how much can I spend to acquire a customer? And that having that responsibility in a team to say, this is exactly what you can spend. I need to know every single number inside out, because when you get to that level of scale, if you don't know it, then you're going to be in a right mess. And that's when we go, okay, now we know that number. How can we increase that lifetime value by adding in conversational commerce?
Yeah. I'd like to turn things a little bit towards your own business now. We've spoken a lot about what you do for your customers. I'm curious to know about your own sort of going to market strategy. The reason being, it'd be very tempting to think, well, you're all about the conversational commerce, therefore that must be your route to market strategy. However, I'm always surprised by people's strategies because it's never what people think it is. So I guess the question I'll ask you is one I've often asked many people, is opportunity can come to us as a result of our content marketing. It can come as the result of campaigns, ad campaigns specifically, or it can come through relationships and referrals. What does that mix look like for you?
Yeah, so it's mainly relationships and referrals, and the reason for that as well is the kind of businesses that we're working with, right? If I've done this, I've tried it, I've tried the whole ascension of bringing people up through the levels, and I could quite easily go, okay, cool, I'll do the Ascension plan, right? Maybe a $37 product, and we've done things like that, and then sell them into a 5K program or a 10K program. But that's not our model. So the people I'm working with, they're not selling the same thing that I'm selling. They're selling their course or program, and I'm not selling a course or program. I'm essentially partnering. I'm finding partners. So people who go through and buy a $37 product and then a $200 product and then a $5,000 product, very often they're not businesses that are already at 7 figures.
No.
So
very rarely.
Yeah. So what I focus on, and we've really dived into this a lot more, is customer wow. So 2 things: case studies and customer wow. Like, this is why when I'm on this podcast with you, right, I'll share these numbers. I'll share exactly what we did, because some people will be listening to this and be like, oh my God, I can't believe he told us exactly what he did. However, other people that are 7 figures plus, they'll go, oh, I want someone to do that for me.
Yeah, well, get me his number.
Yeah, exactly, because people, like, what you realize is help enough people get what they want, and you'll get what you want. So, like, on social media, I'll be like, here's a breakdown how we did 385% ROI, or like, here's how we took this challenge from turned a challenge from live to evergreen and went from $0 to $120,000 in 8 weeks. And then I'll break down the steps. You know, I won't go into exact detail of every single picture and everything that we use, but I'll go, here was the main steps that we went through. And then I'll put some silly call to action, just like, you know, if you want some help doing this in your business, put on your wetsuit and slippery slide into my DMs. And stuff like that. The other side of it is a customer wow. So we actually have a customer wow section on our daily huddles. So anyone who's getting started, you may not be familiar with what daily huddles are. Some people call them Scrum, some people call them other stuff. But basically, we have a 15-minute huddle each morning with a team where we go wins. So what is the biggest win from yesterday? 10-second win for everyone on the team. Critical number, roadblocks, and then weekly commitments. So what do we commit to achieve? On a Friday, we add into that, what is one customer wow idea that we can do in the next 7 days? And I have a timer, and because this is audio only, you won't see it, but like I've got this little silver timer I set for 1 minute, and I create this like very energetic state for everyone, because I go, right, 1 minute, go. And they've got 1 minute to essentially pitch me their idea on what customer wow idea they think we should implement in the next 7 days and why. So what happens is you create this momentum of customer wow, and that's could be customer wow for our clients, it could be customer wow for our clients' clients, because that actually adds customer wow to our clients. If we go, hey, we've got this great customer wow idea for your customers, and they're like, oh wow, that's brilliant, yeah, how do we implement it? It's all right, we'll handle it. They're like, oh, fantastic. So we do that every week. And then I'm like focusing on our onboarding and the communication throughout that whole process. So, for example, we just launched our own podcast like 4 or 5 weeks ago. And I was like, how do I make the best customer journey? So we created a 5-day drip sequence of what to expect when you come on the podcast. And each one of those messages is conversational and leads them more towards knowing what to expect when they get on the podcast. Now, then I set up some crazy automations where I was like, right, what are the things that I'm asking at the start of every podcast? And what do I need to ask at the end of each podcast? And then what are the questions that I want to ask every time? And then we had to take theirs in. So they go through their onboarding, and then they're getting all these real conversational reminder sequences. So, for example, let's say it's 2 minutes before the podcast is about due to start. They get a text message from me. It's like, it'll be like, hey Bob, just jumping in the Zoom room, see you in there. Here's a link. Rather than, hey Bob, here's a reminder that in 2 minutes your Zoom room is opening.
He's saying that because that's what he got from me. So.
no offense, Bob. Hey, there's always room for growth. So yeah, my point is with that is I want to create that customer journey for anyone who comes on the show, that And then what we do at the end of the show, every time, the first question I ask is, how can we improve the podcast?
Yeah.
And then they sell you, and then you improve it, and then what happens? And then we added in this section that says, who would you nominate to be on the show next? And they have no hesitation in nominating someone because they're telling me afterwards, this is the best podcast I've been on ever.
No, that's mine.
Well, okay, maybe joint first, Bob. Joint first.
So, Paul, there will be people listening to this who are thinking, Bob, give me his number. And there will be others who are right at the beginning of their journey thinking, I just want to take one action. So what would be one action that you can pretty much guarantee everyone should take if they're at the beginning of their journey?
Yeah, so real quick win to use is, now most people should have at least some kind of abandoned cart set up for whatever the thing is, whether they're going to a webinar, whether they're downloading, I don't know, whether they're buying a low ticket product. So in your first abandoned cart email, remember every single customer is a human beating heart. So that means respond to them like they are a human beating heart, not just another lead. So put in that message, hey, just wanted to check, hey, it's Paul from Amplify CCom, or hey, it's Name from Business. Just wanted to check in to see if something went wrong or something broke. Let me know and I'll get it fixed ASAP. Now, you'll get a higher response rate on that than probably any other email that you send out. And then what you can do is then refine your message based on the feedback from that and create a feedback loop.
My wheels are turning in my head. I can see so many places to use this already. I have got a big to-do list I've been writing as we've been talking. Hopefully people listening will reach out one way or another. But if people do want to take things further with you, how would you like them to do that? Yeah,
so the best thing to do is go to amplifyccom.com. So there's no hyphens or anything in that. So that's www.amplifyccom.com. And there's we're just putting a new resources section on there. You can listen to the Amplify to Seven Figures podcast, and you can also go ahead and book a call and see some of the other case studies and success stories that we've got on there as well.
And I will put links to those in the show notes. Paul, what's one thing you do now that you wish you'd started 5 years ago?
Conversational commerce.
Why not?
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
A lot of the time I hear things like, oh, I wish I'd started building my email list 5 years ago. This is taking things a step further into, as you said at the beginning, good old-fashioned service relationships and British shopkeeping. So
I like that.
Paul Ace, you have been an ace guest. Thank you so much for your time. And hopefully I get to meet you in person sometime soon. But for now, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks very much, Bob. It's been amazing. We'll have to have a drink soon.
Yes. Before I go, just a quick reminder to subscribe and join our Facebook group. You'll find a link in the show notes or visit amplifyme.fm/insiders. Also, connect with me wherever you hang out. You'll find me on all the social platforms at Bob Gentle. If you enjoyed the show, then I would love a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It would make my day. And if you shared the show with a friend, you would literally make my golden list. My name's Bob Gentle. Thanks to you for listening, and I'll see you next week.